Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 25. In the last outro, I was contemplating whether this one will be about more general factory maintenance, or if we will rush toward making rockets. Well, we will do both. We have a lot to take care of in terms of making the logistics network going, and to be able to place down the required factories for the rockets, we also need to stop delaying, and actually work on the starter base. It's been standing in our way for too long, it's time we got rid of it. All things considered, this one might end up being a bit of a disjointed video. We will mostly just fly around, trying to find problems to solve. And in that endeavor, we will be quite successful. As in finding the problems, not the fixing part. Before we get started, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will let me know that this video was worth making. If you want to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them, and for a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. But enough talking, let's get into it. Okay, there is one incredibly important thing we need to deal with, before we do anything else. The rockets. We've been slowly making the starter base more and more irrelevant, and during that process, we made it harder and harder to make the ammo to keep the dark fog at bay. If we are serious about dismantling the starter base today, it is critically important that we build a new source for missiles. And since I was at the low end of the base, I turned off all the resource inputs for it. The fewer stuff we have on the belts, the easier it will be to dismantle the place. I also made sure to lower the delivery threshold for the drones and vessels. If they are allowed to move stuff around, even if it's just a single item, then they will be able to empty the towers out completely. And I finally decided to place down a temporary storage chest to keep hold of some stuff that we don't really need in the foreseeable future. Things like windmills, basic miners, thermal generators, water pumps, things like that. They can all go in the box, and should we ever need them for whatever reason, we can just visit the mall and pick some up. Also, get used to seeing me visit the mall towers often today. As we pick up stuff in the starter base, we will inevitably start cluttering our inventory with some basic resources. We will come here often to drop them off. Okay, about that missile factory I talked about. We really need to deal with that as soon as possible, so the safety of our outposts can be ensured. This looks like a decent place for it. We will make some of the components they need right here. We need quite a few combustible units, and a relatively substantial amount of basic engines, so those will be made locally. And that is pretty much all we need to make the missiles. Now, we will need these to be delivered all over the star cluster, so we will need warpers, which means we cannot use the last resource slot in that tower to store them. This one will be a 2-tower setup. This amount of combustible units might be overkill, but I want to play it safe. Okay, that's one component down. Next, we need the engines. The rest will come from the tower. 2 down. Now we just need the assemblers that will make the missiles themselves. This many assemblers might be a bit too much. I guess we will see when they come online. Now we just need another tower to store and distribute the rockets, preferably with warpers included. The missile assemblers are struggling with copper. I think I will allow it. Once we research the integrated stacking for the towers, they will start outputting stuff stacked, so it should be fine. Anyways, that pretty much deals with our ammo problems. We can rest easy knowing our outposts are safe for the time being. And here's the next issue we face. Our current hydrogen harvesters on Zeus cannot keep up with the demand anymore. It cannot be avoided. We need to set up a second operation on a second gas giant. Thankfully, I set the production limit for harvesters at 40, which is the number we can place on a single gas giant. We have what we need to fully exploit one. Let's see if we can find one nearby. And we are in luck. We have one right next door, in the Kafal-Jidma system. We might want to rename that one. I have a feeling Polly butchered the pronunciation. Anyways, as you can see, we will fast forward through this part of the video. Building these gas harvesters is always a mind-numbing experience, and I would like to get it out of the way as fast as possible. I really can't wait to get our hands on the white science cubes. One of the first things we will likely use them for will be the construction drones. Making them faster should help with moments just like this one. Okay, that's all 40 harvesters safely generating hydrogen for us. Also, that particular planet was a proper gas giant, which means its secondary resource was deuterium. It's not much, but it should help lower the strain on our fractionator setup a tiny bit. Next up, let's take a look at our quantum processors. Now that we have a steady supply of titanium crystals, we should only need to increase the production capacity on a couple items to make more. As it turns out, we are short on planar filters, and those already have more than enough stuff to be made. So we just upgraded the assemblers, and cloned the existing arrays over to the other side of the tower. This will likely end up consuming all the Casimir crystals, so let's just upgrade those too. Incidentally, making those crystals require a massive amount of hydrogen, so we really needed to build those harvesters. Let's look at the graphene next. We are definitely struggling with that one too. Well, the Foundation factory has halted its production. That was expected. We stopped importing the stuff it needs. We dismantled it now, and we'll rebuild it once we need more. I was way too busy plugging holes to worry about extending them all. That should help a little with the graphene, but I kind of doubt it will be enough to make a big difference. I think we need even more. And we are also starting to run into some power issues. The fusion reactors also need to be expanded. On my way to the mall, I ran into the old titanium crystal setup. For now, I just set the towers to empty out completely. And as I took a look at our fractionator tower, I decided to start dismantling it now. We need that deuterium, and we need it yesterday. We had a half-finished stack of fractionators in our inventory, so I decided to quickly place them down. And that's all we had for now. We will of course revisit the place to carry on expanding it. At least the hydrogen supply looked a whole lot healthier in the tower. As long as it keeps flowing, it's not a complete disaster. With all those distractions, I forgot about expanding the fusion reactors, but don't worry, we will keep building. And those power issues will rear their ugly heads again soon enough, which will put me back on track. For now, I decided to start working toward the actual sphere construction rockets. One thing we are still missing are solar sails. To make those, we need photon combiners. They are incredibly simple, just need some prisms and circuit boards. It seems we are out of Mark III assemblers. Let's go and restock, and get rid of the outdated Mark Is. And that's done. These drones are extremely handy to say the least. And they aren't even fully upgraded yet. They can only operate in the immediate vicinity of the mall right now, but later we will extend that range, and eventually they will be able to keep us stocked from anywhere on Juno. Okay, that is a good amount of photon combiners we have going. The next thing we should be going for are the solar sails. Only, we don't have the room on the ring. Well, I think it is time to get started on the starter base. But, the power issues managed to come back, so I decided to quickly deal with that first, and then we can focus on the old stuff. Just barely managed to squeeze into the positive. Even a single tower will likely push us back into the negative. The only saving grace is that we are incredibly close to gaining access to the best power source in the game, so we might be able to coast on this until then. On my way back to the starter base, I decided to give the graphene production one last kick in the butt. I wasn't ready to pick up that oil extractor yet, so that one will be in the way, but we can move the oil belt a little to make some more room for the chemical labs. Managed to grab just the right amount of labs. That was lucky. And we are already back in the negative. We might need to get used to it until we can start generating power from the sphere. And the fuel rod production is also struggling, thanks to the lack of deuterium. But we are so close now, let's not get too distracted. So, the starter base. It's been standing in our way for too long. It's time to start dismantling it. We need to keep an eye on the inventory though. If we start to run out of space, we need to go back to the mall, and drop off all the materials we don't need. We will eventually need the particle containers here anyway, so might as well put them into the last tower. At least we can put them somewhere. Well, we have just about enough room to maybe place another tower. And since we have it, how about we make it do the solar sails? And done. We now have a source for solar sails. As you might have guessed, they will be very important in the construction of the Dyson sphere. We will not only use them to fill in the space between the different structural parts, but we need them to make said structures in the first place. Same as with the particle containers, we can add titanium to the last tower. That's another thing we need a lot of at some point, so might as well. Next, let's pick up these assemblers. They served us quite well at the start, but now they would be a lot more useful somewhere else. These combustible units are very basic, they are just one step above regular coal, but it's still 11 stacks of the stuff. I don't mind deleting 1 or 2 stacks, but this many, I would rather feed it into the missile factory to be recycled. Oops. I forgot to give the missile tower some power. It cannot deliver them if the vessels cannot charge up for the trip. Also, this place is struggling to get the coal it needs. Well, we have quite a few deposits nearby, so let's sort those out to revitalize the supply chain. We might as well just replace these with an advanced miner. That one will have a smaller footprint. Only, this deposit was too big, so we have to use 2 of them. Oops, the inventory is full. Time to drop things off. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. Only when I was editing did I realize that I really should have just dropped all my stuff off in a box. That would have given me all the room I needed to do this a lot more quickly. With that tower gone, we can start mining the last few drops of copper left in this deposit. It's been sitting here all this time, but now we can access it with an advanced miner. Okay, our research queue is now empty. Let's see what we should go for. Well, this one looks like a good choice. It will increase the latitude limit of our sphere's buildable area by 15 degrees, and we can repeat it until we reach all the way to the poles. Without it, we would only be able to place structural parts along the rotational equator. But with the proper research, we can build a complete sphere if we want to. And as I've said in the last episode's outro, I already finished designing the sphere. I have it stored away in a text file, and will likely share it at some point. But for now, I want it to take shape slowly, and not reveal the finished article too quickly. Now, we had a couple extra stacks of warpers in our inventory, so I decided to use the last resource slot in the last tower for that, and start belting it to the others. Once we start moving our production into other systems, we will need these towers to be warp capable. Great. Now the vessels assigned to these towers can go to other star systems if necessary. Well, I think we can pretty much consider the starter base truly gone. All we have left are a couple small mining operations, but everything else is now a thing of the past. Okay, since we have the room now, how about we quickly do one last rush, and take care of the rocket production. I doubt we will launch any of them in the next episode. We have quite a bit of work left to do before that point, but simply having the capability of building them will be a big step forward. First, we need to make some sphere components. We have everything we need for those. Frame materials, solar sails, and some basic processors. Nothing extraordinary. Now, technically we could easily start launching rockets as soon as we have even a single one. But, I hear that if we start the construction, the dark fog hive currently in orbit around Olympus will start getting really agitated. We managed to avoid pissing them off until now, but that will change as soon as the first rocket goes up. I want to make sure we are ready for that, so we should start setting up defenses to repel any attacks they might try to throw at us. Which pretty much decided what the next 1 or 2 episodes will be about. We will need to look into the plasma cannons. I think they should be our default defensive measure against hive attacks. We just need to sort out the ammo production, and then make enough turrets to defend our positions. Okay, the sphere components are underway. I messed up one of the columns, but don't worry, I will fix that in a minute. Next up, the rockets at last. This was our next big milestone we've been working toward. The one after this will be the actual sphere construction, but as I've said, we need to deal with some stuff before we get there. This amount of assemblers will be ridiculous overkill. These rockets require a lot of resources, so it will take a while to build up enough production capacity to fully satisfy the entire array. But once we do, we will have a pretty good amount of them rolling off the assembly line. Not being able to copy-paste the recipe on the outermost columns is what tipped me off the double-check the sphere component assemblers, and made me fix that error I mentioned earlier. And this is where we will have to leave things. Simply reaching the point where we are actively making rockets is a big step forward. But I can only repeat myself, we will need to prepare a couple things before we can think about launching them. I have no idea how fast the Hive will get angry with us once we start the construction, but I don't want to take any chances, so we will likely end up working on the defenses in the next couple episodes. Once I'm happy with it, then we will get started. And let's not forget about the production chains. The rockets are at the top of the pyramid, so we will need to keep hunting for shortages, and keep plugging the gaps as we encounter them. It's all nice that we are making the rockets, but it will take a while to make them in the amounts that we need. I have a suspicion that we will need to set up quite a few interstellar mining operations before we can do so. Anyways, if you haven't done it already, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, and clicking the like button will also help letting me know that the video was worth making. If you would like to help me make a living off this one day, please consider becoming a channel member, where you will get an early access to the videos as I make them. And if you want to give a one-time donation, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in the next one.